Hi there. I am coming to you with another Peace and Horses film update. This is for the fundraiser. We did reach our last goal of $1,000. Actually, we broke it, $1,108, 22 backers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But we're just getting started. The full fundraiser is for $10,000, and that's the amount that we need funded in order to get the money that has been pledged and in order to finish the production costs on this film. I would love for this to get funded early. If that happens, all the extra funds that come in go towards future episodes. If you think about it, we are funding things every day. We're funding coffee shops, we're funding grocery stores, we're funding our gas stations, we're funding politicians. This is your chance to fund something that might be really near and dear to your heart. Peace and horses. It's something that I think the world is waiting for, the world is ready for. But unless we have enough support, it's not going to get out in as quickly as it can. So this is your opportunity. Vote with your dollars. Help us bring this to the world more sooner than later. No time like the present. Jenna and I today are going to talk about the question, will war bring peace? Does war bring us closer to peace? And that's a fascinating discussion we're going to have in a minute. But first, a couple more updates from my end. Last update, I said I was having power problems with my computer. Got that solved with just a power cord. I'm very grateful it was only that. Another issue coming up is I live in California, and you've probably heard that we have some awful fires here. It hasn't been so bad this year in our area, but what the power company has started doing is they actually now turn off our power when we have high wind advisories. So they said that starting tomorrow, they might turn our power off. And the last time they did that just a few weeks ago, it was off for 3 days. So that definitely would get in the way of updating. The fundraiser will still be going. You can still donate. And I got to let you in on a maybe not so secret desire, but that desire is to have this funded early. I'm actually going to be leaving for Spain in a week or so. I was invited to teach at a couple places there. And, you know, I know it sounds like, oh, she's going to Spain. She must have lots of money. She can fund this. But really, that's not the way it works. These trips end up costing me more than I make, for sure. The cost of renting a car and the extra hotels that I need to stay in between teaching venues, it all adds up. So, it's important enough to me that I love to do it. And if it's at all possible, I say yes to these teaching engagements, but they're not money makers. They're really my way of spreading this in the best way I know how, which is to go and travel and make it accessible to people who are in Spain and in France and in Europe. So that's what I'll be doing, but it's also going to make it more difficult for me to keep doing these updates. So the sooner this can get funded, the better. And Jenna, who I'm going to be speaking with in a minute here, she had a great fundraiser challenge. And that is for everybody, especially those who weren't thinking of donating, just donate $2. You'll get your name on the list. You'll be part of the test audience. You'll be updated. And then the other part is the more backers we have, so we have 22 right now, but what if it could be 50? What if it could be 100? What if it could be 200? The more backers we have, the more that's going to look good to distributors. So when we get to the point of distributing the film, the more backers that we've had at this stage, the more likely we're going to get really good distribution for it, which means more eyeballs on the film. And the other part that really helps is sharing. Any of these updates that you share, the original trailer for the fundraiser that you share, that helps. I challenge you, and Jenna challenges you, to share this fundraiser with 10 of your friends with a personal note that introduces them to this project and invites them to donate $2. This doesn't have to be big. We don't have to all spend our life savings on this like I've been doing. But just showing your support, those little donations just give so much energy to a project like this. Don't be afraid of, don't be embarrassed. If you only have $1, $2, $3 to give, that's fine. That's great. $10 and you get an advance copy of the film when it's done in January. And then we have all sorts of other reward thank you gifts to give as well. You check out the fundraiser page, but until then, enjoy this talk that Jenna and I have about exploring the question, will war bring us peace?
We really have to start by questioning, is war getting us peace? Because that's what war is founded on, is that it will get us peace. So we've been doing that since early humanity, trying to use war to get us peace. But at some point, you just have to question that. You know, in your own life, is conflict getting you peace?
That's a great point.
Usually just gets the other person to leave or you to leave, you know, it's not.
Or hurt feelings. And then you get trapped up. And then the next time you're together to try to talk about it, you come loaded with that pain. And then it can be even harder to show up and be really open-hearted.
Right, right. So this is peace as the path, not war as getting us to peace. It's how can we start with the internal walking in peace and have that expand out. And that's, you know, I want to tie this back into horses and our relationship with animals, which we'll talk about in a minute too. But but really, that's such a great training ground to start with your relationships with animals and find how to peacefully resolve conflicts in that. But we'll get to that.
Yes, we'll get to that. We'll have a lot more conversation about that one. I agree. Yeah. And, you know, in what you're saying, it's like, it's so logical that this is how we need to reframe things. That if we're looking at war as the way to get us to peace, if we're looking at hashing out conflict as the way to try to relate, then no wonder we are not finding ourselves in the midst of the peaceful world that our hearts really long for. Because peace has to be the path to creating more peace. It's so obvious. Right. And I think that draws us back to, oh, shoot, we're pre-literate in that. We don't know how to do it quite yet. Maybe we have moments, and maybe some people better than others. But we really, as a whole, are yearning for more and more of it. And so to me, that says that then we need more skill at it. We need more agreement that this is what we're going to try to do, so that when we come upon an interaction together and we're not there, we can remind ourselves, oh, that's the path that we're trying to do this relationship by, is a peaceful path. Let's start there again. And I'll just say as a comment, that's one of the things I like so much about the relationship that we have, is that we do that with each other. If we start having a conversation and we're like, wow, we're really drifting into not even necessarily understanding ourselves, let's take a breath and let's come back and be present, focus on what we are each saying. And there's so much safety in that.
Yeah, it's like you want the other person to trust you, but trust is earned, you know. You have to prove that you're not going to go into judgment, go into blame, go into criticism, that you are going to be the safe place that can honor other people's opinions, other people's experiences, not even call you wrong, you know, just say, wow, I never thought of it that way, or that's interesting, you know. And then through that dialogue, come closer together. Even if we end up still agreeing to disagree, that's okay. That's diversity. That's what we need, you know. Who knows that I'm going to have the solution to a problem, you might have the solution to the problem. But if I'm stuck in my ego and needing to defend my position, I won't get there. I'm just going to stay in conflict. That's where it comes back to doing that inner work and feeling like there's nothing I need to defend. I can be very open to your experience and how you arrived at it. And then together we can say, you know, is this serving you? Are you getting where you want to go? Am I getting where I want to go? And if not, how can we get there with more harmony, not through making somebody wrong?
Right. Yeah, I love that. The sense of that there can be disagreement or discrepant views, different views, and harmony still can emerge by just conversing respectfully and giving room for those differences to be navigated. And it's not always easy to do that, but the more that we are able to be truly present in the moment and see that what we're experiencing is ourself in connection with someone, and that that's what we care about, and that we're having these opinions that rise, we're having a thought that comes up, we're having a feeling that comes up. If we can see that and stay really connected to the observation of it and stay connected to each other, then there can be a lot more room for all of those differences to be talked about without it being a defense or a criticism, or I've got to really hold to this position, I've got to defend this, or I've got to attack that. It can just be, like you said, oh, I didn't think about it that way, or oh, it sounds like that's really important to you. And I know that in a lot of our conversations, those are the kinds of sentences that we have, the kinds of tones that we have. And so that tells me that we're on track to staying present, connecting in those harmonious ways through whatever differences might arise.
And that really just brings up the next point in the peace literacy, which is literacy in the art of listening.
Yes.
It's such a vital skill that really we aren't taught. You're not even listening to the other person. You're just so busy in your own mind thinking about what you have to say. That's like that's fight right there.
Mm-hmm.
Take up your space and make your opinion be known, rather than being in a space where somebody's really relaxed and opening and listening,
Mm-hmm.
and modeling that for our children. It's not being done to any great extent. I mean, why it's funny, you listen to a television program that's scripted and you can understand it because one person talks and then the next person talks. But in a normal conversation that's not being filmed, it's everybody interrupting each other. It's like, oh, yeah, now I want to say this, and now I want to say this, and you don't really get anywhere. It's just like a ping pong ball going back and forth. It's not harmonizing and taking us together somewhere. It's more like, do you like me? Do you like me? Do you like me? Am I saying the right thing?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than coming from that space of deep listening and wanting to explore and not feeling threatened by somebody having a different point of view.
Right, which can turn from the, oh, do you like me? Am I saying things that are going to get your attention, into I don't like you because you're saying that. And then you get that hostility coming across. And I think you're absolutely right that in our culture, maybe in many cultures, it's so common for this conversational style to be ping pong. And so there's not a real listening. Listening means that we're feeling what the other person is feeling. We've got that empathy. We're able to understand something about what they're saying through tapping into the meaning of what they're conveying. We're able to have some space to recognize, in addition to their emotions of what's being expressed, we may be feeling emotions, and then sharing together what that's like in a way that is calm enough, still enough, slow enough, and mutual enough that there can become an interaction where understanding can build. And that takes time. It takes calmness. And I think to some degree, it takes the perspective of our own ability to observe the moment, and sometimes other people to observe with us to help us see past the blind spots of where we may have gotten triggered into some conflict while we're trying to communicate peacefully.